fine. There's so much to look at though. It's hard to absorb it all. Okay, getting started with me. I wasn't even born yet when the academy was torn down. So how do I know anything about it? Well, two big reasons. One, my father was an instructor there for a good number of years. He came down from Scranton, Pennsylvania, where he was born and raised, went to Rutgers, got a degree in Rutgers for teaching, I believe it was, came into this area and had jobs in the academy, snatched him up. That good young fellow got in. So anyhow, he was involved with the academy for approximately 15 years. He was involved with it as long as it was open, and he was there when it was closed. My mother was born, grew up in a town that had a nice academy, all these nice looking guys walking around in uniform. You know what that must have been like for teenage girls back then. Wow. And they did have lots of dances and things that they held at the academy. So there were a lot of things that she got involved with. And then, of course, she met up with my father, and they got married. But I was not around when those things were going on. Just to let you know, when it did close up, though, my mother and father were great to grab things to have on for memories. They had strong memories for it. So there's quite a few things up here that they grabbed onto, and lots of pictures. My father had a ton of pictures. Don't begin to have all of them now, because over the years, people would come and see these pictures and say, oh, can I borrow them? I want to show them to so-and-so. And they gladly donated to the person, and he never got them back. So a lot of pictures that we didn't get back. But, okay, I'm here to talk about the Wenonah Military Academy. Let's go back to Wenonah, though. Back in the 1870s, there was only a scant maybe a dozen houses back around here at that time, but there was a hotel, the Wenonah House. You've probably heard of it before. We've got pictures of it up here. We even have a picture of an overlook of Wenonah, with you can see the Wenonah House off in the distance there. You can see how sparsely it was settled at that particular time. And it was a great place for people in the city to come stay at. Because when you're over in the city, you don't want to get out in the summer and go on a vacation or something. Wenonah was easy. Hopped on the ferry, go across the Camden, hop on the train, come down here, get off, nice hotel. They held, I think they could take about 40 people. And I read over looking through things and all, that it was booked during the summertime. And it cost a whopping $7 to $12 for a week. I don't know what that would be in this day and age, but that's what it was back then. So it would hold about 40 people. Well, as time went on, it was the idea, the person that owned it thought, I need more room. It's getting booked. I could put something else up and make more money, because it's booked and it's solid in the summertime. It's filled up. So in the time of approximately 1887, it was torn down and a larger place was put up that would hold up to 150 people. It was a much more modern building, had a lot of modern conveniences, thinking back at that time what modern conveniences were. And so the band, and I think the band was actually one of our forefathers, founding fathers of the town, a lot of money. So he tore that Wenonah House down and rebuilt and put up the Wenonah Inn, as it was called. We have some flatware up here. It says Wenonah Inn on it. My mother grabbed that. That's probably the only thing around now of Wenonah Inn. So anyhow, it did a thriving business when it opened up. It opened up in approximately 1894. Thriving business. But then, boy, down it went. It closed up in 1899. What happened? Well, the trains were going down to the seashore now. So what were people doing? They were going down to the shore. They weren't going to hang around here, so they went down to the shore. So here is this great big building. They closed it up, not being used. When along comes the right person to see it, a man who had military experience. And he came over, walking around here through Wenonah, what brought him to the town, but he saw Wenonah Inn all closed up. And I looked at it and thought, wow, he could see a military school there. So he got in touch with the person that owned the building and people from Wenonah, and the mayor included at the time, and said, look, this is an idea I have, what do you think? So they talked about it, and after a while they decided, let's do it. Let's do it. So, for a few years, the building was being worked on because it had to be renovated. Remember, it was an inn. It had to be made into something that was suitable for a school. Classrooms, dormitory rooms, other things that a school would need. And they worked on that. And finally, it opened up in 1904 as the Wenonah Military Academy. They took up to 150 boys, which of course they didn't start out with that number, but up to 150 boys, and it included grades 5 to 12. And the school started up. It gained a very good reputation, not just in this area, but it spread. And actually, after a few years, they actually had a waiting list to get your son in there. Now, how much did it cost? Are you ready for this? $675 for this season. Well, I think I had my son look it up and figure out approximately how much that would be in this day and age. And it comes up to something like $21,000. So you can see, the people that sent their children there were rather on the well-to-do side. A lot of people came from Camden. They had some well-to-do people from Camden that came there. But it also spread. They had people coming from South America, Cuba, Puerto Rico, a lot of places outside, because the reputation got around. They were good rivals of a lot of military academies around. Valley Forge, one of them, when they played sports and all, a lot of times their teams were against each other. They played Valley Forge. And I heard this from my father over the years, that Valley Forge liked the Wenonah Military Academy pretty much, and liked their uniforms, and actually copied, I don't know which one it was, but they actually copied one of the uniforms that they saw in the academy boys here in Wenonah, because they liked it so much. So that kind of makes you feel good too. I think that they copied from the Wenonah school. All right, well, this school went on. My father was a part of it. I think he probably, though I don't have a date or anything, probably got in on it somewhere around the early 20s, because that's when he would have been through college. And he gained the reputation of being known as Captain Knight. And this went on for years, even after the academy. When I was around, of course, it blew on. But I hear people call him Captain Knight, and that all stems from the Wenonah Military Academy, because that's what he was at the academy. So the people that were running the academy thought, what do these boys do in the summertime? You know, we have them all during the winter. Maybe there's something that we could do that could help out with them in the summertime. Let's see about starting a camp. So my father jumped in the beginning with that, because he liked the sound of that. So he was involved with the group. They went out looking. They found a place up in Wayne County, Pennsylvania. This place is like almost on the borderline of New York State. Very small farming town, not much around, just farms. Big, beautiful lake there, about a mile long, half a mile wide. And he found they found a farm that was up for sale, or they talked the farmer into selling it, one or the other. I believe it was apple orchards. They did not have a big barn or cattle or anything. I think it was apple orchards because I can remember as a child there, lots of apple trees around. So anyhow, the academy people, and with my father there, decided that was it. So they grabbed that up, bought that, and opened a camp called Camp Wenonah. They took boys in from 6 to 16 years of age. They had a great big farmhouse there. I think the farmer probably had a big family. A lot of bedrooms, great big area, a nice kitchen area, nice dining area. So when the camp first started with the academy getting it, they utilized the house for everything. They had the rooms for the boys to bunk in and all, and the kitchen there, the dining room, everything was based in the farmhouse. There was one little building in back of it that was a garage that had a little, I've got a picture of it with a little old car that, from way back in the 20s. The farmer did not have a barn per se, so that's another thing that makes me think it was an apple orchard, because he didn't have anything for cattle or anything. So anyhow, camp went on, that was doing very well. Let's get back to the academy. Well, if you remember during the 20s, the Depression started up, didn't it? Finances weren't too good. They started having financial problems in the academy. And so after a few years, I decided, well, let's get rid of the camp. And my father, hey, I'll buy it. I'm going to buy it. So my father took over Camp Wenonah, kept the name, he took over Camp Wenonah. The academy went on, and it just was going down. I blame it on the Depression. I feel that's what it was, because I heard my father talking every once in a while when he would talk about financial problems. And because of the time and all, it's too much of a coincidence, I do think it was the Depression that probably was causing it to go down. Because there for a while, I mean, they were doing a thriving business, and as I said, they even had a waiting list and all that. So, anyhow, going back to the academy, it finally closed its doors in 1899. No, excuse me, the academy closed its doors in 1935. Because the last season there was 34-35. So that's the academy. They finally closed their doors. It wasn't closed too long. They sold everything that was in it, cleaned it all out, got rid of all the bedding, the flatware, anything in the dining hall and all that. And then it was decided that they're big wooden buildings, they're empty. I always heard it talked about that they were torn down because they were considered maybe a fire hazard. So they were torn down. Well, they had put up a gymnasium, so that came down. That was the same thing. They had a grandstand down where they played their ball games. That was torn down. So everything was torn down, and there were just empty lots there. Well, the town divided it into lots and thought, well, they'll sell the lots off to see if anybody wants to buy a lot, put a house up or something. So my father and mother decided, they'd be interested. So my father said, yeah, I'll go up there. So the day that they had the auction, he went up, and another man in town by the name of Webb, I don't know whether anybody knew Mr. Webb or not, but he and my father got up there, they were dumbfounded. There was nobody there but them to buy them. So my father got 2 lots, and Mr. Webb got the other 3. And they became the owners of where the academy building used to be and where the gymnasium used to be. Well, anyhow, let's go back to camp. Camp Wenonah thrived. There were some very, very well-known people that sent their families to camp. it had a very good reputation. Of course, it started out with a good one too. It was connected to the Wenonah Military Academy. So my father took in up to 75 boys, ages 6 to 16. They had the lake, they had boating, swimming, they had all kinds of athletic things, and they gradually moved out of the farmhouse and put up tent platforms for the older boys to stay in. The academy had put up a few, but my father had to add more because it was becoming a very popular camp. So he put more platforms up for these tents. We also built more cabins for the younger boys, but they stayed in the cabins. And he built a great big recreation hall. That was the greatest thing in the world, because if it was a rainy day, all of them could be inside there doing something. They had an annual training shop, they had a leather shop, they had a nature area, they had ping pong tables, they had dartboards, they had a piano, they had basketball, anything they had room for it there. It was a great big building. And then he also put up a great big mess hall where they could go eat, and had a big modern kitchen to take care of cooking for all of them. And he ran the camp very, very successfully. The last summer of it was, though, in 1947. And at the end of that summer, an organization from New York City came over and thought, wow, this is just what we're looking for. And they started to work on my father to buy the camp. Well, of course, my father probably wasn't interested at all when they first started talking to him. But I remember going back and forth to New York City when I was little, and they were discussing this. And finally, they made him an offer that he couldn't refuse. So Camp Wenonah came to an end. Now, going back to the lot over there, it was 1948, the camp was sold. So my mother and father decided we'll put up a house. So the house that's put up is on the grounds where the academy was, actually where the building itself was. I have a picture up here of it. It was kind of neat to live in an area like that, look out, see the stone wall and on, and know the history of that place. But you'll have to take a picture. Take a look at the picture up here and see it. The house is still there. Now I'm going to tell you a few little interesting facts before we get on to something else we're going to end with. I talked with a cadet that had actually gone through there. He went down through the academy. He also went to Camp Wenonah. His name was Bob Hinkle. A couple of little interesting facts about Bob. When he was little, he took to my mother and father because he was away from his parents so much, being in school here all the time. So he's got rather close to my mother and father, and they were just like second mom and dad to him. And when camp started, he went up to camp. When he was old enough to learn to drive, he was up at camp, my mother said, I'll take you down to Forest City, and you can get your driver's test. So they hopped in the car, and she drove down to Forest City, and he flunked it. But guess what he did in World War II? Flew a B-29 bomber. We always got a kick out of that. Okay, and another thing that I tell you about Bob is when I saw him one time, I said, Bob, I said, you had a donkey. He said, yeah, a donkey was a mascot. His name was Zip. I know where he's buried. He said when he died, they had a full military funeral for that animal. And I know where he's buried. I saw a picture of it when I was little, and it registered here. Well, now, what I'd like to do is have you, we're going to watch a movie, a football game, and it's not the Eagles. When you look at this, see if you can see anything that you might recognize. You should, if you look closely enough. David?
occasionally recognize some stuff around this football game too.
This was down in an area they called Cedar Field, where they had a lot of their, they did horseback riding down there, they football, baseball, a lot of sporting events that they had down there. They also had a grandstand that was built there that held up to 500 people.
My grandfather was the one who took this movie. I still have the camera he took it with.
Yeah, we still have the film, but we're afraid that the film might just disintegrate. I think they beat the Eagles. They had helmets, but they were just leather things. Not like the big things that they wear now. That make them feel indestructible. I'll give you a hint. The buildings that you're seeing right off in the background there are still there today.
Greenhouse.
And they're made of glass.
Yeah, greenhouse.
Anybody know where they are?
Greenhouses.
Yeah, greenhouses, right. Yeah. But this is actually Academy boys practicing football down here. Or I didn't know whether it was practice or there was actually a game. There's the grandstand, you see some of the grandstand there. There's good pictures of it up here.
Is the train still there?
Yeah,
Train is there?
the train was there. The train is behind us
Yeah.
in this movie.
The other train tracks are flying on one side. They were very good in their athletics, and they excelled in those. And one year, actually, were invited to come down to Washington, D.C. to meet the president because they had such a clean record with their football team that year.
When I was transferring this film to video, it's probably the very last time it would ever have been shown, because when I was through, there was a pile of sprocket dust around the projector.
Oh. We're glad that we got it saved.
Yeah.
It was lucky. That was just lucky to do that.
We know of the year.
We don't know. We have to guess it. If you're real good at guessing the ages of cars and all, there's
cars
things where you can see
somewhere.
the old cars, and you can probably tell by that.
All the film was labeled was football game, the Academy football game.
So I think they won the Super Bowl that year. It looks like, yeah, there's a grandstand. You can see that.
Yeah, the train tracks now will be more to our left.
It's kind of amazing, though, that there's something like this that we can look back on and see. Actually see them doing something like this, not just a photograph.
And this is as sharp as it was, too. But I don't know who's home, who's away. I can guess if it's like modern convention, I would say the lighter uniforms would be the Academy.
Yeah, the helmets were actually just, they were kind of hard to have. They were just a leather helmet.
The dark would be the visiting.
Most of the film is of the light shirts.
There's
so
greenhouses,
maybe
and
that's
you can see them back there.
the home.
It must have been a game because there's too many
Yeah,
people
people
here
watching.
watching practice. I don't know who they're playing though. My mother and father were on a boat trip once, and they landed on the coast of South America in Venezuela. And my father said right away, oh, he said, we'll have to look up so-and-so, because there was somebody down there in government, a higher class position, that graduated from the academy. But then when they looked, after they got off the boat, they looked around, there was so much military stuff there, they decided to better not, so they didn't bother. But guy that had gone to the Wenonah Military Academy from down there.
I did give the Galzinskis a copy of this movie too. For their greenhouses.
Is there anything anybody wants to ask? Don't have to answer. When was the academy torn down?
Oh.
Year. It was torn down somewhere around 1935, because I wasn't in the picture yet.
You have incredible.
Yeah, 1935. It was very quick after it was closed out. They sold everything out of it, and as I said before, the people that were in charge and all that, it's a wooden building, it's vacant, it's a fire hazard, is what we kind of get from it. Whether there was another reason behind it, I don't know. But anyhow, it was torn down very quickly.
What happened to the house that was on the corner? It was one of the dorms, the corner.
One house was torn down. Yes, there were two houses, actually, after it had been up running for a while. They utilized two houses, one on the corner of Maple Avenue there by the Englishman house, and the other one right there at the end of Cherry and
What happened to the
South Clinton. They were used,
went down.
I don't know why that was torn down, that wasn't the academy tour that down. But they were used for, one was for the juniors and one was for the seniors. The one for the seniors is still there.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Go look at the pictures. Go ahead.